all three of the messages are still to be proclaimed. It is just as essential now as ever before that they shall be repeated to those who are seeking for the truth. There cannot be a third without the first and the second. So in other words, we still have to give these messages. Now, why 1844 is very important year? Why? Do you know what happened in 1844? October 22, 1844, what took place? Christ went to the most holy place. It says here in 1844, our great high priest entered the most holy place of the heavenly sanctuary to begin the work of the investigative judgment. The cases of the righteous dead have been passing in review before God. When that work shall be completed, judgment is to be pronounced upon the living. How precious, how important are these solemn moments. Each of us has a case pending in the courts of heaven. We are individually to be judged according to the deeds done in the body. So 1844 is a very important date because Christ went to the most holy place and started his investigative judgment. So why the investigative judgment is very solemn moment? Because TM 234, paragraph 2, this is a very important quotation. It says here, the looker on may discern no difference. But there is one who said that the tares were not to be plucked up by human hands, lest the wheat be rooted up also. Let both grow together until the harvest. Then the Lord sends forth his reapers to gather out the tares and bind them in bundles to burn, while the wheat is gathered into the heavenly garner. The time of the judgment is a most solemn period when the Lord gathers his own from among the tares. Those who have been members of the same family are separated. So during this time, are we living in the investigative judgment? Yes. That means wheat are being harvested. They are being harvested. They are being separated. That's why it's very solemn. Because people today are being harvested, are being separated. What is the point? Why they are being separated? They are being set aside. It says here, a mark is placed upon the righteous. They shall be mine, said the Lord of hosts, in the day when I make up my jewels, and I will spare them as a man spareth his own son that serveth him. Those who have been obedient to God's commandments will unite with the company of the saints in light. His name shall stand in the book of life. Now, when we separate ourselves and try to follow Christ, because he is actually gathering his people, he's going to put a mark right there. Now, do we receive the seal? Seal, actually, people think that nobody see the seal. It says there that no human eyes could see the seal because it is a mark that only angels can see it. Only angels can see it. Now, what is the seal that he's putting in us? It is a seal. It says a seal is settling into the truth so that we can stand, actually. Seal is settling into the truth so that we cannot be moved. That is seal. So God is actually trying to prepare us so that we can be settled in our faith, so that we will not be moved. That's why he is actually preparing us. That's the only way that he's actually trying to prepare us. Now, he's not going to mark us right away. He's going to prove us still. He's going to try us. We are making sure that we are ready. We're ready to go. But he is actually gathering his people. He's giving us these messages that will separate us from the world and come to him. Okay? That's why there's harvest going on right now. So the Lord has been gathering his wheat from the tares during this judgment time. Will his honest children leave the fallen churches? Yes, it says here in early writings. It says here, I saw that God has honest children among the nominal Adventists and the fallen churches. And before the plague shall be poured out, ministers and people will be called out from these churches and will gladly receive the truth. Satan knows this, and before the loud cry of the third angel is given, he raises an excitement in these religious bodies, that those who have rejected the truth may think that God is with them. He hopes to deceive the honest and lead them to think that God's still working for the churches. But the light will shine, and all who are honest will leave the fallen churches and take their stand with the remnant. This is a very clear. And also another quotations here. As the churches depart more and more widely from the truth and ally themselves more closely with the world, the time will come when those who fear and honor God can no longer remain in connection with Him. So those who are honest people, they will see it that, oh, this is not the church that I want. I want to be in a church where reverence is being practiced, where people are being reformed, are transformed. That is what. If they see apostasy going on, they're not going to stay there. As the church is being converted to the world, are the churches being converted to the world? Yes, they are being converted to the world. It says here, it is a solemn and terrible truth that many who have been zealous in proclaiming the third inch message are now becoming listless and indifferent. The line of demarcation between worldlings and many professed Christians is almost indistinguishable. Many who once were earnest Adventists are conforming to the world, to its practices, its customs, its selfishness. Instead of leading the world to render obedience to God's law, the church is uniting more and more closely with the world in transgression. Daily, the church is being converted to the world. Now, this one is also applicable to us, because we could be out from the denominations, but if we practice what they're practicing, then we are still what? We're going to be accountable. Okay? That's why we don't want to do that. As much as we can, we need to get out of that. We don't follow the customs of the world. Okay? The traditions of the world. Thus, it says here, in Patriarchs and Prophets, thus in every age, from the midst of apostasy and rebellion, God gathers out a people that are true to Him, a people in whose heart is His law. So God is actually gathering a people from every denomination, from every church, in the midst of apostasy. He wants a people that are true to Him, meaning they're being proven, so that when they are being taken to heaven, they're not going to repeat the apostasy that Satan did. No, He wants a clean heaven. That's it. Now, let's go back to the diagram here. Let's go back to the diagram. Okay? So from the field, the separation of wheat from the tares take place, right? Now, here, actually, you could actually say that when you are in the field or in the church, you are like in Egypt. You are like in bondage. You don't have the freedom there. This represents all the churches. And then when the message is being given to you, you are being harvested. So the wheat are actually being taken out. They're being transported to the threshing floor. Now here, the process, the chaff are being blown out from the wheat. Okay? The chaff are being blown out. And that means this is also what we call wilderness. Remember the children of Israel, they were in Egypt. They were being taken out from Egypt, delivered. And where were they actually? They were in the wilderness. That's it. We are now in the wilderness. We are now in the country. We have the freedom. This is the true church. Now, in this country, in this wilderness, this is where we are being threshed. We're being ironed. This is the time when we need to develop the character of Christ, because we will be tested here. This is the time where God's people are going to be proven whether they can make it to the end. This is here in the threshing floor. Now, when we are being tested, when everything is being proven already, then we are ready to be taken to heaven. That's it. That is the process here. Now, the question is, was there a time? Okay. Why this is the true church? This side here, why this is the true church? Because it says here, God has a church. It is not the great cathedral, neither is it the national establishment, neither is it the various denominations. It is the people who love God and keep His commandments. Now, we read this already. This is the church here because they are not the denominations. They are not the establishment. Okay? These are people who are composed individuals from the different churches who are following Christ. That's it. That is the church. Now, was there a time, okay, because I'm going to that quotations that was being sent to me, the church may appear as a bountiful. That was in 1886. That was in 86. Now, which church that may appear as about to fall, but it does not fall? Now, was there a time that the Adventists was the Church of Christ? Yes, because they used to be in the second there. Do you understand? They were actually in the threshing floor. The Seventh-day Adventists. When they come out from the denominations, from the Protestant churches, they actually came from those churches. So in other words, they were actually once in that threshing floor. But see what happened, they went back. They went back. So now, because they went back, it does not apply to them. What applies is, with church, this is the church here that may appears about to fall, but it does not fall. Let's look at the quotations here from 2SM. This is the original quotations that was being taken from Maranatha 203. The church may appear about to fall, but it does not fall. It remains while the sinners in Zion will be sifted out. The chaff separated from the precious wheat. Now, where is the chaff going to be separated? Is it from the field or from the threshing floor? It is not from the field. The chaff is not being separated there. Where is the chaff separated? Is outside of the field, where in the threshing floor. So the chaff separated from the precious wheat. This is a terrible ordeal, but nevertheless it must take place. None but those who have been overcoming by the blood of the Lamb and the word of the testimony will be found with a loyal and true, without spot or stain or sin, without guile in their mouth. This is the church that will appear to be about to fall, but it will not fall. Why? Because it says here, they're actually overcoming. They've been overcoming. Okay? And actually, if you read the whole quotations with this, the remnant actually who are obedient to the law of God gather strength in the process time. So basically, this is the church that appears as about to fall, but it does not fall. It does not apply to these denominations here, because they are already in a Laodicean. They're in the world. They're already fallen. This church may appear as about to fall, but it does not fall. Why? Because none but those who have been overcoming by the blood of God. They are transforming. They are overcoming themselves. They're going to look like they're going to fall, but they're not going to fall. Why? Because they have Christ in them. Okay, they have been overcoming. Now, was there a time that the HD church was the true church of God? Yes, that's what I told you already, because they used to be in the second. They used to be. Okay? Now, does God's true church compose of 70 Adventist faith believers also? Now, in other words, when you are in this threshing floor, do you call yourself 70 Adventists? You think these people are called still 70? Yes, they are still, because they keep the 70 Sabbath. In other words, even though you don't belong to the denominations, it doesn't mean that you're not a 70 Adventist. You are still, because you keep what? 70 Sabbath. Why you're called Adventist? What is the Adventist word means? Waiting for Christ. Are they waiting for Christ? Yes, they are really waiting for Christ, because they are just one spot of it.
Name means waiting for Christ.
Adventist means waiting for the second coming of Christ. Yes. Yes. The Advent. So Adventist means waiting for the second coming of Christ. So in other words, they are still 70 Adventists, but they are just not members of the denomination, but they are actually called 70 Adventists. Even myself, if they ask me, I still have the faith of the 70 Adventists, because I keep the 70 Sabbath. But I don't belong to the denomination, because Christ is actually harvesting me. He is actually putting me here now in the threshing floor, so that I can be ready when the time comes. That's it. So people today who are still in the field, they're still way out. They're still too far away, because this is the time where you need to develop our character. Can you develop your character there, where wheat and tares are growing together? No. By beholding, you become changed. By beholding, you become changed. See, let's read more here. There's only 3 more slides I have. What's going to happen if the wheat continues to remain there? And if they're being given the message and they still want to, I think this is it.